We welcome all the participants to this class, this online class today. Thank you for being here with us today. We will have Lydia, who is presenting the work on this amazing book by Marcia Reynolds, Coach the Person and Not the Problem. It's quite an important aspect of our coaching activity. So we're very curious to hear what impressed you the most in this book and learn a little bit from your perspective on the book. So the space is all yours, Lydia.
Okay, thank you, Christina. So when I was looking at the bibliography some time ago, I went through all of the books and this one stood out to me. And so in doing the book presentation, I realized why I was drawn to this book. It's more about my own coaching journey. So I've been coaching for 5 years as a wealth coach. And when I started, all I was doing was teaching. So I was educating. Oh, can you still see my screen? Okay. I was educating everyone on how to invest, money management 101, just the basics. And then I transitioned a little bit and I realized that, first of all, I don't enjoy that aspect of it so much. And I came across some information regarding your relationship with money. And it was when I started teaching on your relationship with money that I had a eureka moment. I enjoy this. I enjoy this material. And not only that, I enjoy seeing the women, since my coaching is for women, I enjoy seeing the women have the revelations that, oh, I can see the connection between my grandparents and the environment they grew up in, experiences they had. I can see how that translated down to my parents, the beliefs that they have, and how that now has informed not only the beliefs that I have, but how I manage my money. And it was in that process that I realized this is the most important element. I can teach, yes, that's great. I can teach Finance 101, Investing 101. But is when that transition happened, I realized that the foundation should be about the individual's relationship with money. So it was a win-win. I preferred that. And then the greater transformation happened with my clients when I started focusing on that. And it's more about the level of self-awareness for the client. So in that case, I was working with my clients. So I was coaching them to help them become more aware of their relationship with money, but I was still advising them. So it wasn't quite yet at the ICF level. And so joining this program now, I didn't realize that it was a natural next step in my journey of I started off teaching, then I started incorporating the client. And then the next step is actually the client has all the power. The client is the expert. The client has all the resources. And so I often tell my clients, being wealthy isn't about the money. Being wealthy is about the person you're becoming. And this is something, it's like a mantra of sorts that I always share with my clients. So if you want your financial situation to change, you need to change. And so now I understand that my journey has led me here, understanding the ICF definition of what a coach is and shifting my mindset on that. I'm going to go into more detail on that in my subsequent slides, but it really is the natural next step. And I didn't even realize that when I signed up for this program. So now that I understand what the role of a coach is, it's about partnering with the client. And partnering with the client, I may have thought I was partnering with the client previously, but now it's fully partnering with the client where I'm no longer the expert. The client is the expert. I partner with the client by listening, by responding, by asking appropriate questions. And this will enhance the client's level of self-awareness, which means they can find their own solution. So, and it's not just about learning the competencies and applying them. It's about becoming that coach. So in as much as the book is called Coach the Person, Not the Problem, I didn't realize I signed up for this course to improve my coaching, which is the problem, right? But then I am being coached to become that coach, if that makes sense. So this book not only aligns with where I was with my relationship with my clients, it also is about me and my journey, my personal coaching journey. And it's been a bit challenging. I don't know about you, but I've been working as a wealth advisor for 8 years. I spent a lot of time, a lot of energy enhancing my skills in this area and defining who I am as a wealth coach. And so now I'm not, removing all of that from my life, but I realize now I have to separate that, who I am as a wealth coach, who I am as a financial advisor, from who I am or who I'm going to be as a PCC coach. So I'll obviously maintain what I'm doing, but it's completely different, and it's been about shifting, and that shift has taken some time. It's taken a lot of, listening and applying and realizing that because I've been doing something the same way for so long, and it's deeply implanted in how I perform every day, how I interact with people every day, how I view myself, I've had to make a shift. So that shift is why we're having this conversation today. How am I supporting myself? Really, it's just about giving myself a lot of grace, being patient, and just applying what I'm learning with every assignment, making tweaks that are sustainable, right? Mindset tweaks, and then also just application of the ICF standards. So I talked about what it means to be a thinking partner. So let's talk about that a bit more. Okay, I'm gonna have to share my screen again because it's not allowing me to change my slides. So let me just cancel and share again because I don't know what happened. Okay. So as a thinking partner, my own perspective has had to change. And it's about now believing that the client has all the answers. Previously, I knew that the client had the answers, but that they needed my help. But that's not the case anymore. So now that I believe the client has the answers, the result is the client will have increased self-confidence. So it's a change in my own beliefs. It's shifting from believing that the client has to work with me to get those answers and working with me in expert mode to shifting to believing the client has the resources and it's within them. It also releases the pressure. Now I don't have to feel the pressure of, I need to know the answer. I don't have to have the solution. And it's kind of a weight off my shoulder. Not that it was a weight before, but figuratively, I don't even have to think about it. So I can just relax, enjoy the conversation, enjoy the coaching relationship in a new way. And I also realize that what I'm being taught, it does align with my beliefs, but I've had to apply my beliefs in a new way. So that means I've also had to shift. For example, I believe in practicing curiosity. I believe in asking questions. But then I realized I'm not asking questions the ICF way, right? I'm partnering with the client, but there's a certain way we have to go about it. And I'm approaching it now from a place of curiosity, but it's a different way of asking questions when I'm the expert than asking questions knowing the client is the expert. So how I ask questions has had to change. It's important for me to trust myself, trust in my abilities, trust in my intuition, and also to trust the ICF process. So I'm building my own confidence as I'm going through this program. So the clients should increase their confidence as they're working with me. But as I'm going through this program, I'm also increasing my confidence in who I am as when I become a PCC coach and my identity in that, but also increasing my confidence in how I ask the questions, how I respond in the coaching sessions, being alert, being attentive, and just applying the ICF competencies and making sure I'm following the ethics, the code of ethics as well. And I think the most important thing is accepting that it's an ongoing process. I don't have to have it all together right now, little by little, step by step. And again, this is something I know outside of this. And I realized that maybe I was being a bit hard on myself during the program. And so releasing that pressure has made it easier for me. I don't have, any expectations on myself as to how I'm supposed to go and I guess the outcome of how I'm thinking that I will apply what I'm learning and how fast I'll be able to grasp things. So it also means that I can be present and patient with myself and with my client. So you'll see that the learning is twofold. It's not just about the coaching relationship with my client, but it's about the learning that I'm having on myself in this program. So the results, as I mentioned, is increased self-confidence. So trusting that the client is the expert in who they are, in what they need, and what their goals are, and then in what needs to change, whether it's mindset, behavior, or both, so that they can achieve it. And the hope is that after the coaching relationship is over, the client knows they have what it takes to continue addressing the issue on their own, and that they have the skills. And the hope again is that this confidence that they've gained, they'll continuously evolve in it and grow in it so that their life reflects their values. So this is a good time for me to ask you a question that Christina asked me. And it's one I was surprised I hadn't thought about because it hasn't come up. And the fact that it hasn't come up doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So I'm asking you, what happens if the clients don't feel confident at the end of the coaching relationship? This is perhaps an assumption that I've made. So what would you do? Let's start with the first question before we move on to the second.
Yeah, we need some time to process the question, but it's something interesting to reflect on, and it would be great to have your, let's say, some ideas, some replies from the participants.
Maybe they're like me, they haven't thought about it. Now's the time.
Yeah. What happens, generally speaking, what happens in you as a coach? Let's say, what if?
Mhm. So for me, then I would have to understand why they don't feel confident, and then I will know what I may need to improve on.
Hmm.
I saw a video, Cristiano Ronaldo was talking about himself. What happens if, maybe his team wins, but he hasn't scored a goal? And he just says, the next time I'll try and score a goal. That's all. The next time I'll try and score a goal. So it's his mindset. It's about, and it doesn't impact how he views himself, but he knows that every day he wakes up is a new opportunity to continue improving. So when I think about that in my life as a coach, okay, I may not get everything right. There may be a hiccup, or I may ask the wrong question, or I may, there are things that may not go according to the ICF standards, but the awareness is what I can use to improve the next time.
Okay, so Lydia is seeing this side like wanting to improve the performance. It's quite interesting. We can exchange some ideas. What are you thinking about? What would be your...
Christina, I'm just thinking, how will you know the client is not confident? How do you make that decision, that assessment that a client is not confident? Are you looking at his body language? Is it what he says? So that is the first thing that is going through my mind. And if the client tells you, I'm not confident, then, but if it is you looking at the client and you're feeling that that's how he's feeling, then maybe the thing is then about you, not about the client. It's your feeling. Maybe you can then proceed to just check if your feeling is right and if that's how the client is feeling. And maybe he's not feeling at all. Maybe he's feeling confident, he's happy and so on. But if he says, well, he's not confident, then what is he not confident about? That can then begin a conversation with the client about what he's not confident about. And if he tells you that the two then meet there, whether you deduce it yourself or when he tells you, it comes to a point of what the client is not confident about, what does he want to be confident about? Is there something else that he needs? And so on. That's how my mind is processing it at this moment.
Thank you, Sam. Also, offering other reflections with your question, it was how do you know? And does it come from my assessment? So I have to check in with my assessment, with myself. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, Samuel. And so that leads into maybe he's also, oh, Dr. Becky, you want to go ahead?
Yes. Because it's bringing up a couple of thoughts. First of all, there was a time when I would feel responsible for that client feeling confident. And now I think as I'm like getting into the MCC level, I'm realizing that it may not be me that is responsible for the client being confident, because that's the client's responsibility. And I think in my presentation, I say a little bit about that too. And yet there's the other side that says that if the client had that goal at the end of the session of being confident, then that would be the result that we were looking for, and we would be checking in along the way and asking them how they're going to measure that confidence. And then, like I said, checking in with them. And then at the end, if they felt confident, that would be great. But at the same time, if they don't feel confident, it's still kind of their responsibility. So I have a friend who always says, when you coach, receive what the client gives you and then give it back. And so if I'm receiving from them that they are not confident, then I think that I need to give that back to them, because that's ultimately their responsibility. I want to hear what Christina has to say now.
Me too.
Well, I'm happy that we all have diverse and useful and insightful contributions and ideas. And yes, checking in, asking in. But ultimately, the client is responsible for results. Responsible meaning that in my personal experience, if or when clients don't feel confident because I check in, I ask them, I can see that, or we have a conversation on that. Well, confident in respect of what? I mean, of their expectations, my expectations. So there's no performance to be pursued. But if they don't feel confident, they will eventually at their own pace, whenever it's the right time for them. So yeah, I don't want to take much time of Lydia's presentation because it's your time, Lydia. But yes, I agree with everything that you said. Actually, taking the responsibility, Lydia, to improve as a coach, I would encourage you to let go of this idea, because otherwise you also feel responsible and you feel responsible to improve, and there's nothing to improve, nor with you or nor with the client. So I would say just to accept and be comfortable in that situation and give it back to the client and say, so what are you willing to consider, or how does that make you feel, and what does it says about what you wanted to pursue? So confidence is not something that has to be there at the end of a program, of a relationship.
Thank you to all of you, because that clarity actually helps me with that point, because I did say the results would be increased self-confidence, but maybe it's not. The result is achieving the goal that the clients set out to achieve. That's it. And so that is actually giving me something to think about as well. To just change that, because that's something that maybe just because it's been evident doesn't mean that it's a guarantee. And that doesn't mean that it's something that it shouldn't be the focus either. So thank you all for sharing that insight, because again, it helps release that pressure. I don't need to know. I don't need to know the outcome. And so if I'm expecting that there will be increased self-confidence, then I'll put that pressure on myself.
Exactly. And you know, the second question that you're offering is so much linked to the first one. So it's about promoting, our job is about promoting the client's autonomy. And by the way, today we will touch this point in our lecture. And so, yeah, it's also interesting to see what we can say about the question number 2.
So let's go to question number 2. I'm just watching the time. So maybe if someone has feedback on question number 2, as a coach, how can you ensure your client's autonomy and empower them?
The first answer that came to my mind is just follow the process. If we can follow the process in terms of what the standards are, if we can master the skills and the competencies that we are learning, I think just following that process would ensure that, you know, the client is at the center and the client's autonomy is guaranteed. I find that whenever you like initially what you said, whenever you think yourself as the expert and you are trying to help, it's just like you trying to help the caterpillar because you feel that the caterpillar is suffering and you want to rescue the caterpillar, when in fact, it's the process of becoming a butterfly. It has to go through that process. So that's the thought that comes to me, is just let's follow the process. And if we're able to follow the process, that would give the results of ensuring client autonomy and client empowerment.
That sounds good to me. I don't know, Christina, what do you think?
I would just say that we have to believe in our clients, and the rest will come when we do believe, when we hold that belief. Our thinking, our words, our questions, our clients will perceive that. So it's our belief. We really need to make sure and connect with our belief about that.
Okay, thank you. Follow the process and believe in your clients. All right. Okay, let's continue. One of the quotes from the book that I like is, you want the shifts to be made at the identity level instead of just trying to alter activity. So the reason why I really appreciate this quote is because it's easy to stay on the surface level. It's easy to simply address the problem. And even when we think about it in terms of mindset, it's easy to stay at the superficial level. But we know that true transformation is more than just mindset change and affirmations. It's when they realize how their mindset has shifted their identity. And that's when the awareness becomes deeper. And that's when the greatest revelations happen. For example, subconsciously, sometimes even consciously, we make I am statements. And these I am statements are very powerful. So if you switch, and again, the I am statement as an identity statement, right? So I am, switching from I am weak to I am powerful, that switch in how you view yourself will transform everything external. This is why at the identity level, the shift has to start there. So I have another question for you. What shifts have you observed as a result of your clients making a shift at the identity level, or perhaps in your own life? Maybe we'll hear from someone who hasn't shared yet.
Yeah, this is another very, it brings a lot of reflection. Francesca.
Yeah, so I think that there is always balance. And so what I saw, both in a client and in me, is about observing the counterpart. So I usually tend to see the negative, like the judgmental part. And like I was not seeing it. I also saw the same in a client, like the strong and powerful positive part that was on the other side. And I say balance because like this positive part was there because there was also the negative side. And I wasn't aware about this, like, and also the client were not aware about this. So once you become aware, like it's powerful because like, and also at that point, like you feel confident. And that's a shift. And also what I wanted to say before, like about confidence, is that actually, at least for me, that it's okay, like to feel confident, not to feel confident, if it makes sense, because like it's not like a permanent state. So even when I don't feel confident, in a way I am confident that I will feel confident again. because I just trust the process. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Francesca. I will save my answers because this is how I'm going to end the presentation. So if someone else would like to share, I will share my own personal response later on. Or we can continue. No one else would like to share. But I'll give you a moment.
Yeah, there was just one. One was just very briefly. I was coaching somebody around kind of her progress to becoming a partner in a big legal firm, and I think I think her shift, which she shared with me, was that she kind of moved away from it being just a lot of things that she needed to do and to achieve in order to get there, into a whole way of thinking about who she was as a partner and what that would mean. Rather than what she would do, it would be who she would be. It didn't happen in one session. And actually it surprised me more than anything because I didn't quite know that she'd got there, but that's what she played back to me towards the end. So that was when I observed a real shift. Yeah, in the way she viewed it all.
Fascinating. Thank you, Lucy.
But if I may just also share, recently had a client, and at the end of the period, she told me, "So I'm going to share something with you. You won't believe this." I said, "What happened?" He says, "Can you believe that there is a position, and the boss asked me to take that position?" And said what I told him. I said, "Yes, I will." And he said, "Before we started this process, I would not have said yes. I would have said, no, I'm not qualified for this one." But at the end of the process, she was now like, "Yes, I will try, I will do it." Even though she told me in her mind, she was not sure that she was ready for the role. So that's, if you talk about the shifts, that's one of the things I can share here. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's great.
And there is Flora
Thank you, Sam.
who raised her hand.
Yeah, thank you. I would say that the big shift is then has happened with me, because nowadays I would understand what you said, Lydia, before, that it's not my responsibility anymore for the client, because I used to work and I still work with as a psychologist. But now in coaching, I would say, I strongly would say that it's the most beautiful way of working with people and shifting, and the shift that is happening in both sides, because it's a partnership, as you mentioned before. And now I feel very released with this big shift that I have done. And what we have spoken with Christina, I have stopped working with pain and taking that pain with me. Instead of that, now I have replaced with good results and making progress all the time. So thank you.
Thank you, Flora. Well, it seems that most of us have either experienced it ourselves or observed it in our clients, which is great. All right, I'll continue. So I want to talk about my role as a coach. And I have 3 words, starting with the letter A, that I can use to summarize how I would describe my role as a coach. The 3 words being attentive, ask, and acknowledge, because I love an alliteration. So what does it mean to be attentive? It means listening actively. So you're not just listening to the client's words and emotions, but you're also listening to other nonverbal cues. It also means you're providing a safe and supportive environment, which respects the client's pace. So no rushing, not asking too many questions, and so on. Ask is all about you're clarifying the goal of the session, and then you're asking powerful questions that will evoke awareness. And this will aid in the client's discovery of their new perspectives and possibilities. We talk about abundance mindset all the time, but this is really what the abundance mindset is. The client is now aware of perspectives and possibilities that they hadn't seen before. And it also encourages deep reflection and self-exploration because we want to challenge those assumptions and limiting beliefs, those subconscious beliefs that we don't even realize are running our lives. So whether it is me as a coach or in the clients, it works both ways, right? And then thirdly is acknowledge. So it's important to summarize the points made by the client, but also you want to ask their opinion on what they've heard. Because sometimes when you share, you summarize, they realize they have some new awareness. So you can't just say, all right, this is the summary and move on. You want to ask their opinion on what they've heard because you're their thinking partner, right? So you're also, being a coach means also encouraging the client to connect with that awareness and connecting it to the original goal of the session. It also means affirming and celebrating your client's progress, their strengths and achievements. And this is important because it reinforces the fact that the client is the expert. It enforces the client's capabilities and it builds their confidence. Not that the confidence is the goal, right? The confidence isn't the goal, as we just discussed. It encourages the client to do some reflection and understand their context, understand their beliefs and their own identity. They will also gain greater awareness of where they are concerning their goal for the call. It deepens the trust between the coach and the client because now the client can feel like you hear me and you see me. It emphasizes the client's resourcefulness and the habits that they have because they are finding their own solutions. It also validates the client's feelings, experiences, beliefs, and values. So a couple of examples here. When you're being attentive, something you can ask is, how would you describe the emotions or energy shifts you're experiencing? A question you can ask is, what comes up for you when you consider the different elements at play here when we're looking at possibilities? And then acknowledge is, what I hear from you is, and then you summarize the client's words and then ask them, how does that sound to you? Marcia has a quote that really epitomizes why this process is so important. She says, reflective inquiry is a powerful way to create the disruptions in thinking that lead to breakthrough, transformation, and change. So now that we know what the coach's role is, what isn't it? So as a coach, I'm not a problem solver. I'm not a decision maker. I'm not their cheerleader. I'm not judge or jury on their thoughts, their beliefs, their experiences, on anything they say. I'm not a therapist. I'm not looking to the past. And also, the client isn't working with me as their coach to have me as the subject expert. We've talked about this a little bit, but I want to delve into this a bit more specifically for me, because this has been, I think, the biggest shift. This has required the biggest shift from me because it's moving out of my comfort zone. I'm used to having done things a certain way for the past almost a decade. And it's about changing my mindset and my views regarding what coaching is, who I am as a coach. I'm not just a wealth coach. The client's expertise in themselves and letting go of the outcome. Because working in finance, I know the outcome. when the situation, the client explains their situation, I know that, okay, these are the possibilities. And then as we go further in the conversation, it becomes more evident which outcome we will lean towards. But that is not the case anymore. I don't even have to think about the outcome at all. There was a video on the portal I found and I watched, and the person said, to be effective in coaching, you need to be useful and not helpful. Break the habit of being a fixer or a problem solver. And I think this is something that has been a strength of mine my whole life, being a problem solver, right? And so perhaps that's why I like my job as much as I do, because I am solving problems. So I have to take a step back and I have to separate that from this process. And how will that happen? It's just about practice and patience. If I think about that, the two P's, practice and patience, that will help me get to the end of this program. Practice and patience. It's reminding myself that my worth as a coach in this program is not connected to me providing the answers. I'm used to my worth being connected to me providing solutions, right? And also letting go of needing to be in control as the expert. I wouldn't have thought that that would have been an issue. But we all know Christina asked a lot of reflection questions. So as I reflected more deeply and as she asked me more questions, I realized, oh, maybe it is that I do like to be in, not that I like to be in control, but I'm used to being in control. Perhaps I do like to be in control as well. But that's a conversation for another day. And also means that I can work with anyone. It's not just about working as a coach with anything to do with finance. Because of the ICF standards, I can work with anyone on any topic at any level of life, any career. It doesn't really matter what it is. I have the tools that will allow me to do that. It's about working with the client to produce consistent results. That's it. Which is actually it's a pretty simple way to look at this process. Now, I mentioned earlier, I wanted to share a bit more about my personal growth as a coach. It's been about...
And sorry to interrupt you, Lydia, I just want you to be aware of time because we have another presentation.
Okay.
So you need to compact the rest of your work.
This is the end.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the end. So the evolution of my abilities as a coach and my identity has shifted and is still shifting, and I'm sure will continue to shift. So it's about slowing down, remembering there's no rush, progress over perfection. It's about learning about myself and the new ways to practice my values. It's about a deeper commitment to coaching in a new way. It's about using the coaching ethics to guide my behavior, okay, as a professional. And then it's about enhanced emotional intelligence, probably the most important of them all. Regular reflection. I am someone who reflects regularly, but I don't always write them down. Writing them down more consistently has been very helpful. Practicing mindfulness, being present, enjoying silence, regulating emotions. Reducing or eliminating biases and judgments. That's been incredibly important. And it's shown up in very subtle ways now that I've been more aware of it. Cultural sensitivity, living in the UAE, having clients from all over the world, and listening to respond, not react. And then last but not least, it's about giving myself more grace, giving myself the same grace I extend to my clients. So because of time, I will leave the last question for you to think about on your own. What mindsets have you had to release and or embrace as you progress with your certification? Since we don't have time to discuss it, please do think about it. It will be helpful. It's helped me, so I'm sure it will be helpful to you as well. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Lydia. Maybe you can drop the question in the chat because we will continue when we stop the recording, we will continue our class. You can drop the last question in the chat.
Okay.
It will be great because it's fantastically linked to what we will discuss next in our class. So we can probably discuss it more in our class later on. And thank you for this personal and authentic presentation that you have offered. It was like a declaration of intent. It was like something very specific, very clear, very personal. And congratulations for this work and what you have brought in this work. So I close the recording now, and thank you for your work today.